Get it clean?
Yeah.
Nice. Make the surface flush, so if you run your finger across it, you don't feel it.
Today's live lunch was 4 selections from the fantastic...
Hi, Keegan the vlog here. Welcome back to DMC Wrench Time, and a little bit of an unexpected re-entry into the DeLorean transmission. So we took this thing for a ride after we put everything back together after the clutch disaster scenario. Thing drives beautifully. Everything is awesome. Except when we came back and put it away, there was a puddle under the car that appeared to be motor oil. So the first thing we did was take everything back apart, suspecting that I did not do the rear main seal correctly, and found no evidence of oil leaking from the rear main seal. However, we had the transmission out, and when we tipped the transmission forward, oil came out from inside this tube over these splines. So this seal, which rides in here, which I redid. Here's the one that I put on. Here's the original one that came off, was leaking. So unclear whether or not this is a part malfunction or a RTFM malfunction. The way that this seal is supposed to be installed is this coupler comes off. The seal goes in here, rides on the carrier. You put this back in over top of it, put everything back together, and tap this home with a light tap with a rubber mallet or something like that. And it says that very clearly on the reassembly instructions for the primary shaft, which that's what this is. The primary shaft is coupled to the clutch shaft. That's the terminology that it uses. I didn't do it that way. I put the seal on the tube and pushed it over top of this, and that probably damaged the new seal. And it looks like right there in the corner is evidence of that happening. So that's why you read the manual. That's why you have a shop manual, RTFM. So anyway, we've got this thing apart. Now we've got to clean up all the surfaces again. We've got to do this job correctly. Luckily, I had help this time, as you saw in the opening. Thank you to Colin for helping me disassemble a DeLorean transmission. I hope I just didn't start something there, Patrick. Sorry about that. If you find a transmission taken apart in your garage. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, notice the case halves are ready to go back together. I already have the sealant on one side, and this is incorrect. The primary shaft needs to be installed first, and I haven't figured that out yet, and it gets worse. So I'm doing this from memory, and at this point I still remember the input shaft going in last, so I think I have a shift lever geometry problem. Stop. Never do this to a transmission. Always use the shift levers if you want to shift a transmission. After manually moving the shift fork, I could tell something wasn't right. I'm looking for the detent spring and the marble. Oh, wow. Kitty. Well, can't put this together today.
What broke?
The detent for the reverse lever.
Oh, nice.
This is the project that will never end.
It does sort of seem that way.
Good Lord. All right, it's a new day, and in my haste to get this thing back together, I was trying to set the input shaft into the transmission and put a little bit too much force on the reverse fork and broke the detent spring. So I've been waiting for a couple days, paid the jerk tax for rush shipping, and make sure we got the right one. Yeah, compare the sizes. The reverse spring is just a little bit shorter than the rest of them, and it looks like we got the right one, so we can continue. All right, looking at this, it looks like the spring goes in first and the detent ball goes in on top of the spring, so this should be a little bit easier to put in than I thought. Found it. Woo!
He saw the ball in the spline, and he found it. I can't believe he found it.
Oh, you talking about when you say it was a single ball?
Yeah. It was one of these.
You found that?
Like he said, I need a lottery ticket. That's
How long did it take you?
10 minutes.
So he
All right.
and the end of the shot. So he bought.
What else can I screw up on this adventure? I maneuvered the shifting mechanism by moving it this way, and it was just too easy to put too much force on it. So I'll always use the. If you're going to shift it, use the shifter. Yeah. Reverse works. Now we're just gonna put this all back together and torque it and let the sealant set up. Alright, the transmission is back together for the third time. And I'm just putting the fill plug in right now. It's not completely full. Probably needs about another quarter of a quart. But it was very evident before, when this was tipped forward, that that gear oil was just dripping out of this. So we're going to tilt it forward again. And there's no gear oil coming out of this tube anymore. So I don't know if that's the leak that we were chasing, but it certainly was a problem. So that appears to be solved with the new seal. And possibly the installation method that I used. When we did take this apart, we noticed that the spring inside of the seal itself was displaced, so it wasn't holding its form, and that very easily could have been a result of me pushing that seal over top of the coupler instead of disassembling that shaft. So I followed the shop procedure this time, read the effing manual, and so far so good. I'm gonna tip it a little bit further forward. I'm gonna leave it tipped over overnight and put a little piece of cardboard. We're gonna do the cardboard test on it and see what we get. All right, welcome to the next morning at the shop. We let the transmission rest overnight, tipped forward. In this configuration before, there was oil dripping out of the nose of the transmission, indicating a failed input shaft seal. So we took it all apart, put a new seal in, followed the instructions correctly on the installation procedure, and we did the cardboard test. So this sat overnight, and there is nothing leaking out of the input shaft now. So let's get this thing back in the car and see if that solved our problem. That was it, the thunk. Boom. Okay, we're all back together with the DeLorean. I'm gonna fill it up with coolant because a lot of coolant came out in the mount for the transmission. So we're gonna fill this thing up, do a little bit of adjustment on the crossgate cable, and we're gonna start this thing up and see what we get. All right, now what we're gonna do is let it warm up. We're gonna see if it's throwing oil, but we're also gonna bleed the cooling system. All right, here we are. It's dry under here. We just did a nice 5-minute run up with lots of turns and sloshing around and all that good stuff. And before, when I came in after a drive like that, oil would just be pouring out of this thing. So it's very clear that we fixed the problem. The problem was gear oil, not motor oil. And it was either a defective part or an installation error on my part. You saw, I'm gonna flash back to the procedure page. For installing that lip seal requires disassembly of the primary shaft to the clutch shaft and installing the seal, recoupling the two shafts, and then tapping it home. I installed the seal on the tube and pushed it over top of that coupler, and that is likely what damaged that seal. So anyway, it looks like we might have a reliably serviceable DeLorean to drive on nice weather days. Not quite a nice weather day out there, but hopefully I can get this thing over to its storage facility this afternoon before the roads get wet. And that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.